Hello and welcome to ArtShow. I'm Craig Stover, and today I have with me Matthew Colaizzo. Hey, Matthew, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Very good. I'm excited for today because I'm a fan of your work. So I wanted to start with
Thanks.
some pieces that I found of yours that I really love, that I've got some questions about. And I
All
wanted to
right.
start with this piece because I think it's a home run. I think this
Oh,
piece
yeah.
is fantastic. Now, this piece, if I'm correct, this is a little bit older for you, correct?
Yeah, this one's probably, what is it, 2024 now? So this one's probably like 15 years old.
Okay. So
Maybe 15, yeah. Yeah.
maybe even older.
No, yeah.
Well, that
Yeah.
doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the vibrancy, the mark making that's in this. I really I'm blown away by it. I
Yeah.
want to know is where do these mountains that you often use, what's the symbolism behind
I guess it was I've been really interested in like landscape. I lived in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and actually a little town outside of Scranton called Troop. And there's a lot of like abandoned coal mines out there. Um, so I guess they just kind of seeped in, and I was really interested in like the piles that were just everywhere. And
them?
then the juxtaposition between those piles and then the actual natural mountainous landscape, you know? So
So
I
it's
was just,
just the landscape that the idea of a mountain as a symbol isn't really anything. It's just that you're in love with the landscapes.
I was just like interested into a formal landscape. Yeah. I wouldn't say
Okay.
it's like I don't know if it's a symbol for anything, but for me,
Well,
but
just
I'm
because you use it
interested as a
frequently and you
feeling,
you
you know?
combine it with other things sometimes. So that's was leading me down that path. I wasn't sure.
Sure, no,
But
yeah, sure.
so how big is this? What are we looking at in
This,
size
this one,
terms?
this one's a smaller one. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, I would say like 22 by 16 or something around there, you know?
Okay. And how is this just one block or is it multiple blocks?
This one's multiple blocks. I think there's a layer down, one, two, three, four blocks,
Okay.
and then the reflection in the water is another block that's printed on the reverse side of the paper, so it shines through. So you get
Do
that
you
like essence thing.
do you always use the same types of paper or do you experiment with papers?
Back then, I was using primarily a paper called Okawara machine made,
Mm-hmm.
but then I also used a lot of Kitakata paper as well.
Hmm. Interesting.
Mhm.
I really like it. So this is actually the piece that I was first introduced to you
Oh,
by.
okay, yeah.
This was the
Mhm.
first one that I saw. And again,
Yeah.
that mountain form, but it
Yeah.
almost seems like the way you use them, they almost seem like portraits rather than
Yeah,
landscapes.
they're just like a feature, you know,
Uh-huh.
and to highlight that feature. And it's like with the wood grain, you know, it was all about that, you know.
So
Yeah.
this one, I assume this is those seam lines I'm looking at. Is that multiple blocks? Is that what?
Yeah, so this one is I think this is like a 40-inch circle. So I think all those there are three or maybe a 30-inch because there are three 12-inch planks glued up
Right?
together. And it's three different printings, three different layers.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I have some nerdy tech questions for you. My first one is really, since this is a print or printmaking process, are you additioning these at all?
I was doing very small editions. Like maybe I think I had three of this one.
Okay, all right.
Hmm.
So this is very different, I know, but I really enjoy this piece. Tell where does this come from?
So this was like my big departure for making woodcuts, you know.
Right.
And I was like, where do I start? And I was just like, the woodcuts were just so big. So I
Mhm.
wanted to do something really small at a desk sitting down. And I was interested in like the barrier because I mentioned to you like the piles and
Mhm.
landscape. I started getting really into those like areas,
Mhm.
uh, like mining or kind of like land excavation, quarries, and
Mhm.
I would sneaking into a lot of them, you know. And the one thing I always noticed was like a private property sign or barriers everywhere, keep out, you know, they don't
Mhm.
want you to see what they're doing. And so I was just kind of playing around I think there's like there's like a lot of these, but this is
Yeah,
just one of many of these studies of
right.
these barriers, you know?
Well,
And
when
just
I
like
fir-
really
yeah,
trying to like I just as a form, like the Jersey barrier was like a really interesting thing. So I was like trying to like different ways of drawing it, you know?
well, they kind of look like mountains themselves, right? So
Yeah,
you have sort of
yeah, no,
pyramid shapes. But I like the idea that, to me, the mountains are asking me to like go climb them, whereas this is telling me the opposite, to go away.
yeah.
So I really thought that was great. That, and sometimes you can juxtapose them. So I know
Well, yeah,
for,
'cause they do say like if you do like drive past a quarry, you're like, oh wow, I want to go in there. That's a crazy landscape. But then all the signs are saying, no, you're not allowed in here. And then
that's
they I've been like escorted out of many places. Like you're not allowed in here. And I usually tell them I'm like looking for fossils or like a
right.
geologist or
That's good. Blame a scientist.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
is this a real place, or is this an invented place?
It's probably like invented slash real.
Okay.
I when I have like hundreds and hundreds of photographs I've taken of these places, so
Okay.
it could be a real place, but then I just put like that time of day in there, you know, like the night sky.
I was curious if you worked with source materials. So is that a yes, that you're always working
Yeah,
with source materials to begin with?
I do a lot. I do a lot of like photographing, and then I worked a lot in my sketchbook as well. I work a lot in my sketchbook,
Okay. Well, you're
drawing
racking
from
off
the
these questions.
photograph, and then they take their own form that way, and then I transcribe them into, and I would transcribe them into prints.
Well, this one is just exquisite because I hadn't seen too many where you have those really light lines that sort of, I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if they're star trails or airplane trails or what they are, but they just add so much to the picture. What are they? What am I?
Some kind of astronomical event
Okay.
in the sky. Who knows really what it is, you know?
Well, it just makes that mountain so dark, right? So
Yeah,
like foreboding. And again,
nice.
I can still see a kind of a portrait within the mountains, but I mean that's just me, just kind of looking through.
This one's really small. It's like a really small etching. So you know,
Is
of a
it?
copper plate, they're really small. Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you so is this an etching?
This is an etching. It's aqua tint, and
Okay.
then the black mountain is aqua tint, and then the sky is a relief roll.
Right.
If you know about that.
Yes, I do. That's fantastic. Uh, do you have the capability to do etchings then in your studio?
I did this at Second State Press in 2014 when I was a fob holder there. I did a
Oh,
lot of etching.
nice.
Yeah. That's right, and that's I think I haven't done an etching since because I
I
don't.
absolutely love etchings, and I love, the way that you can fade with the aqua tint, and
Yeah. Really
yeah, just
fun. Really,
it,
really fun. Yeah.
it looks really great.
Oh, there
So
it is.
this is going back to my other question about the mountain that makes you want to go there, and so you have
Hmm.
that sort of push pull in the picture. I really enjoy
Yeah.
that. Tell me about the creation of this piece.
I was just playing around with the fences, you know. So and then juxtaposing those fences on top of these mountains or kind of like natural forms, you know.
Hmm.
And this is like so I was just playing around with that, you know, and I was like interested in the grid and that kind of thing, you know.
Is the mountain a drawing in the back? Is that a
It is a
graphite?
woodcut. It's a
That
woodcut. It's a rubbing. It's a rubbing
okay.
of woodcut. So it's graphite. Yeah. And I
And
think I
then
use the process of doing the same process of printing, but I would use different hardnesses of graphite for different layers of the
okay,
rubbing.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. And
And
how about the barrier material? What's that?
acrylic, acrylic paint.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And again, the size of this is this.
This one's pretty large. I think the frame for this was 48 by 45 or somewhere around there. So it's to the max, you know, of that 40.
If you have your preference, do you prefer making larger works?
I do like making larger works, you know, but as a recent, my space got really small and taken over. So I make really small works now.
And this is
Oh,
the final piece I wanted to show.
yeah.
I thought this was a real winner. So the progression, it looks like the barriers seem to be growing. There seem to be more
Yeah,
and
so it's
more of
like that grid of barriers, you know? Yeah.
it's there's a lot of psychology, I want to say, within these pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
I find them very fascinating.
This
Uh,
one is pretty large too. It doesn't quite fit in the flat file. It hangs out a little bit. It's probably not good
okay.
for this one, but
Yeah, I got a
um,
few of those. I need
and
bigger flat.
I recently changed the color of the moon. I guess that's an old picture.
Oh, okay. All
The
right.
moon is really bright now and it kind of shines, which is it's a lot better. Yeah.
Did that completely shift the picture?
It just brightened it in a way, you know. It gave like that moonlight a glow, you know. What was I
So
thinking? What was I thinking with that blue moon? Who knows, you know? And then I took a
maybe it'll
picture,
resurface.
and then you found that picture of it. It's kind of fun. They do go in a lot of it's like this one like they go through like a lot of states, like this one did especially,
Hmm.
you know.
That's great. That's funny that you mentioned states, even though this is a one-off, right? I mean, there's not an addition of
This
this.
is watercolor and acrylic, yeah, and probably some gouache in there too.
All right. So you just you vary your materials depending on what it is you're trying to create.
Well, I was doing woodcuts, strictly woodcuts up to a certain point, and then I looked back and I said, I think I put myself in a box, and that's all I know how to do now. I
Mm,
need to learn how to draw again. So
okay.
the last maybe few, I probably from the pandemic on as like a completely new body of work that's just like kind of opening my boundaries up again, you know, and that's kind of the aim, you know.
I don't think I've met an artist yet who the pandemic hasn't completely shifted what they do.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
so it's
totally.
great to hear that you're on that train. So I wanted to start off our regular interview part with a question that I like to ask artists about your beginnings in art.
Oh yeah.
Um, and so, do you remember? Do you have a first exposure to art that still sticks in your head?
Exposure to art. I guess my grandfather was like a real DIYer, you know,
Okay,
and like everything around the house was like jerry rigged and handmade and that kind of thing, you know. He was a
okay.
metalworker by trade, so there was a lot of he made a lot of metal stuff, but just all over the house was like all like kind of. So I think that was like a big inspiration to me, like seeing his like handiwork all over the house, you know.
That's awesome.
And that and also I really took an interest in drawing at a young age, you know.
So,
Uh,
at did you always know that you wanted to become an artist? Did you slide into it, or was that people?
I think I actually always knew, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I always
Ev-
felt like myself when I was like drawing or making something, you know.
So you went to school for art?
I went to college for art, yeah.
Okay. And was it at that point you realized that yes, you wanted to be an artist?
Probably before then.
Okay.
Probably well during high school is when it really took off, I guess, you know. Yeah,
Okay. That
yeah.
doesn't happen with every artist. In fact, I know artists who even go to college and they're still not sure if they want to become
Yeah, yeah,
artists.
yeah.
So,
Like college, I would just like sit in the back of the class and draw in my sketchbook, and still have like hundreds and I mean not hundreds, but like you know, a bunch of sketchbooks just filled up with like drawings, you know.
was it in college that you sort of fell in love with printmaking?
Well, that's an interesting question because I started out as a painting major,
Okay.
and Stanley Whitney told me he said you're not a painter,
Uh-huh.
you're a painter, but you're not a painter. So I and at that time I was taking a printmaking class, and there was like a book project in the printmaking class, and I was just spent all of my time working on that book, and that's where I fell in love, and I realized it was about the paper and working through the process, you know,
Hmm.
that I really like found worked, you know, for me. Yeah.
Was there anybody in particular, maybe in school or even out of school, that really sort of lit your fire, that really got you excited?
Hey, a friend of mine, Jeff Dents,
Okay.
I saw his woodcuts. We didn't go to the same school, but I met him after a little bit after school, and I saw his woodcuts, and I was just like blown out of the water. And I was like, the quality of that ink sitting on the paper was just phenomenal. I was just like, I needed to like explore that. So I started making woodcuts too, you know. And he kind of showed me the ropes on how to make those woodcuts, you know.
So
Yeah.
I have a geeky technical question for you for a woodcut. So do you do trial proofs?
I'd make so many like there were so many crappy prints that I would make and just pulling it and being like throwing it over there. And I have stacks and stacks and stacks of prints that wouldn't work, I guess, you know.
Right,
And it's a lot of work because you're like, let me try this color combination. And you're like, oh God, what was I thinking? You know?
right.
And
Well,
then you look at it like 2 years later, and you're like, that was amazing color.
well,
Yeah.
I asked that question because I've found that with printmakers, some make trial proofs, but then they just discard them, where others will actually keep them as separate works of art. And I'm kind of curious where you stand on that.
I think they're all, yeah, if you like it, it's a work, yeah, they're all works of art.
Yeah.
None of them are not works of art. They're all works of art. But some of them I don't like, so I just don't look at them. But then some
Okay.
of them, like, oh,
But you don't
real.
get rid of them.
And then I look at old pic. No, I don't get rid of them. I
Okay.
probably got rid of a few. I would like do stuff with them, like collage with them. But
Okay. So
and
you're
I still,
never wasting. You're
still
always
have,
well,
I still have them. I think they're just rolled up. Probably like I have like a flat file at the house, and a lot of them are they probably got like messed up, just like all wrinkled from sitting in the back of the flat file. When they
they
slide
get
it back and
crunched.
they get all
Right.
crunched. Yeah, that happens to them. Yeah,
That turns into the collage pile for
I
me.
probably need to take them out and iron them one day.
Yeah. Um, so we mentioned a little bit about additioning.
Yeah,
I get a sense that you're not in it for the addition. You're in it for the one piece. Am I off track?
yeah. No, you're right. Additioning was not like that. That's like work.
Yeah.
It's just like it's not like I mean it gives you I guess it gives you something to do. You can like watch a movie while you edition. It's
Uh-huh.
cool, but like no, I was never really that excited about editioning.
Okay. I
After like
always think,
after the fifth print, you're like, okay, God.
right, you got it. So you're in it for the experience, not necessarily the final product.
I was in it for like I would like try different things, like
Okay.
yeah.
I want you mentioned sketchbooks. When you're working on a print, do you always sketch out stuff first?
I would like do like a bunch of preliminary sketches and
Okay.
then like, take that and then try to blow it up on a bigger scale. Just figuring out like on those woodcuts. I would try to figure out like the shadows, the composition, that kind
Okay.
of thing.
So you
And
are
then
working on it.
color was all printing. I wouldn't figure it out. I did a lot of color sketches back then. Yeah.
Okay. Because I asked because I know some people who print wood blocks and they just draw right on the block and then they cut it and that's that.
Yeah, I would do. I cut it. Yeah, and then I would draw on the block. Yeah, after the
Okay.
sketch kind of prepared me to draw on the block.
Is all your stuff by hand or do you actually have a press?
All by hand. The
Okay.
woodcuts were all by hand. Yeah, definitely. No
I
press.
assume you must have a collection of wooden spoons and stuff.
Wooden spoons, the speedball barons with like the little soft bottom.
Uh-huh.
Those were like my favorite because you can get like a really soft. I used that a lot. I had like four of those
Okay.
and all kinds of stuff. Sometimes you just get a really wet ink and you just go on, you just print it with your hand. So it was like a really like engaging process. It was almost like drawing. Printing was like rebirthing the print into it like a kind of like a drawing in a way.
Do you keep your blocks or do you discard
Yeah.
them? Okay.
Uh, I lost a bunch. They got thrown away, but I got the newer ones.
Okay.
So,
All right.
it's a long story. I'll tell you. Another.
So I want to ask you about your ideas. Like when you're going to make something new, you're in the studio, you want to make something brand new. What sparks your creativity? What is it? Do you have like sort of go to? Is it always like your source materials that you're looking at, or is there something else?
Maybe like color combinations. As of recently, like just kind of like creating an atmosphere on the paper and then working with that. And then like just staring at it for a long time and then being like, oh, maybe I'll try this. Um, I have a new body of work that's kind of behind me. That's kind of a really big departure from everything you've shown, but
Okay.
it's not really. It's still that figure ground relationship, and it's still like based in landscape,
All
but
right.
it's more like based about color and that the figure ground. Yeah.
So
So
your work has changed over the years, and one of the questions I like to ask is, do you find that the change in your work is gradual, or are you the kind of artist that does these big breaks?
it might be gradual, but maybe there'll be like a big jump, but then I'll like try to like do that thing for like a whole year.
Okay.
I think I was working with those Jersey barriers for like 3 years straight, and then I kind of tired myself out on it. And now I'm on the like tiny bricks, and
Okay.
yeah.
What's next? Like grout or stones
Uh,
or something? Who knows?
I don't know, I don't know,
Well,
It doesn't have to be anything, just like something, who knows.
I ask about that, the creativity spark, because some artists will say like, well, I got to go take a walk, or I got to, eat a sandwich, or it's literature for me, or something like that. But for
Yeah.
you, it sounds like there's a lot of internal
It's
thinking.
internal, yeah, but also like walking around. Recently, I've been like the colors of like Philadelphia, like row homes.
Right?
See a lot. There's a lot of good ones out there. You
So
know.
I'm getting the sense that really for you, it's about color experimentations.
Right now, yeah. Right now it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that even more important than, say, the storyline within the picture for you?
I think maybe like figure ground relationship as well.
Okay.
Yeah, figure ground relationship and color. Hmm.
So you also, at least a lot of the work that I've seen is always really, you do a lot of work on paper.
All
And
paper, yeah.
I assume that you used to, if you started your career as a painter, so you were doing works on canvas or board
Yeah.
earlier. But what is it about paper that you keep working with it?
I think paper inherently has that kind of atmosphere to it. Whereas canvas, a canvas, I just a blank canvas, I really couldn't relate to something about the weave and the texture. It was like flat already, and then working past that canvas weave, I really didn't like. The paper was already had like depth to it in a way for me.
Yeah, I get you. Are you
And
always looking at new papers, like
oh, I
feeling
got
them?
I have like stacks and stacks of all different kinds of like old papers. Yeah,
All right, we
so
should do a paper trade, because I got some good stuff, and
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
probably have
But
some
it's
good
fun.
stuff too.
And like and like going to the like ripping nice pieces of paper out of old books that you find in those free libraries.
Oh yeah,
Probably for you book lovers out there, but those end pages can be nice too.
they're fantastic. That's a good source. I hadn't thought about that one. I can't pass an art store without, like, at least going in to see what's new, or what they have on sale.
Yeah, touch all the
Special.
pages, open all the paint.
One of the questions I like to ask artists, which it's something new that I've been sort of lumping in, I think it's interesting to hear. Do you consider your works to be autobiographical in any way, or
Oh,
do you think of them as separate?
well, I don't know. I've never thought of that. They're probably. I've never really thought of that.
Well, I mean, you're selecting the mountains, you're selecting the barriers,
They
right?
probably are. It's like me coming out in the work.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if you start thinking about that, maybe you're thinking too much about it.
Okay.
You know what
Well,
I
some
mean?
artists overthink it, some underthink it.
Yeah, I
So,
never really thought about that. Autobiographical. They probably are. I
all
mean,
right.
look at them. And they change, and I guess I change as a person.
I
Yeah.
I started asking that question because I was always thinking about sort of early Jasper Johns. He was famously quoted as like he wanted to make something separate, but then
Hmm.
later in life he essentially just realized he can't. It's everything he does is
Yeah, 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 yeah.
autobiographical.
Well, the
So
mood, I'm really going for the mood, and I really like that, be in that mood.
okay,
I like that kind of like that beautiful melancholy state. Can you picture it?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
And that's kind of like I was really into that with the prints, that
Well,
like
that explains a lot about your color palette over the last decade, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
it really sort of explains that. So so let's talk a bit about your audience then. Like,
Yeah.
um, something I like to ask is, when you're making work or showing work, do you think about your audience at all?
Um, I guess sometimes.
Okay.
I haven't really shown. I guess I have my shows have gone down and down recently, but I guess I was thinking about the more recent work. I like them to get lost in there.
Okay.
To like kind of like a meditation kind of a thing. Where that first one you showed was like those swirly ways you can get lost in that work, and the new
Yeah.
work is that like repetitive kind of like mark making too. So that is like a kind of like been a thing.
Okay. So I mean, you're actually reinforcing something that I always thought about your work, which is it has like a Zen-like quality to it.
Okay,
Like, I kind
nice.
of want to meditate in front of some of those mountains. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's anybody else, but it's me anyway. So we have time for just two more questions these go
Sure.
by quick. I want to know when you're gonna make something new in your studio, sat down,
Mm.
you know, have a clean studio, you're ready to go. Do you have studio rituals that you always do in order to get moving?
It's usually putting all the framing work away and getting all
Okay.
the work out, and then you have to like let it sit. So usually if I'm like I know I'm going to be working on artwork the next day, I
Uh,
will, if I have a whole day to work on artwork, I'll like transform the studio to like I'll put all the framing stuff away so I can have all my artwork out.
okay.
Usually that I don't have that luxury, because this you can see I have frames behind me
Right.
that are to go out. But I have a little bathroom behind me that I just sit in, and there's a huge bay window, and it overlooks
Nice.
a community garden. It's a really nice bathroom. So I like sitting there, and that's
Okay.
like dedicated to like painting and stuff, you know.
Interesting. You need that clean space in order to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, transformative. So, time for last question. Question I ask
Mhm.
all artists: what does making art do for you?
What does it do for me? I think I like need to be making stuff, whatever it is, like always making something. So I guess it gives my life like a higher meaning that way. It's like something bigger than myself, to
Okay.
make something because it's like a mystery. I have a wood shop too, and I'm always making stuff for there too, in there too. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
Interesting. That's curious. Now I now need to relook at your older work again after this conversation, and I really I'm dying to see what you're working on now too.
Oh
It's
yeah, sure.
sort of
You
figure
should come
grounds.
by for a studio visit,
I definitely will. I'll
and
take you up on
I'll show you some corner samples as well.
that. Well, Matthew, I really appreciate you coming by and talking with me today.
Yeah,
I'm a
sure
big
thing.
fan of your work, and I hope the people who watch it are as well. So thank you for coming by. And I also want to thank everybody else who tuned in to watch ArtShow today. We really appreciate your support, especially if you like and subscribe. That helps push us forward. And if you have any comments, please put them in the comments section. We want to hear from you about what you think about Matthew and his work. So again, thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it. And thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Take
Craig.
care.